Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Wisdom Wednesday with CTI. We have an amazing guest today. Her name is Jane Bolin. Thank you so much for joining us, Jane. I'll give a little bit of introduction to you before we start, but we have also Zia Mohi, our COO from CTI, Gavi, our business development leader, and of course, our Q&A queen. Please don't hesitate to ask questions to Jane. We already have everything set up for you on all our live streams platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So please go ahead and ask your questions. Now, Jane, you are definitely the founding member and managing partner of Peyton Bolin, real estate association attorneys. So, Jane, you are a lawyer, an entrepreneur, and a total leadership. How did your journey really start, and who is Jane?
Okay, so first, thank you for having me on. I'll tell you, where did it really start? So I think leadership starts when you're very young. Like my answer is I've always been a leader. Like I raised my hand to be the patrol head. I raised my hand to run for sit class president. But really, the reality is once I got into my professional life, I was always doing the same thing, raising my hand to be a leader. And I think that is what brought me to entrepreneurship because I wanted to be the leader of my own organization and make an impact. And then, my most recent leadership roles that people talk about is, of course, being a mayor and a city commissioner, running for office. I mean, that was a massive move. But this all really started, when I was in law school and I said, I'm not going to work for anybody. That's not going to happen. So I built a company then. My first company was a management company, which of course I've since sold many, many years ago at this point. But that's when it started was again, but it's, who's really Jane and how does it start? It's like, hey, I'll do that. I want to be the captain. Let me pick the members of the team.
So Jane, with that being said, I've been on both sides. I've been the soldier, I've been the commander. And I think one thing that I've noticed in leadership, it has to be the most selfless job at the company.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you have to always give away praise and give away accolades and absorb all of the negative yourself. It's never your team's fault, it's your fault. But if something good happens, it's because the team did great, not because you did great. And it's a very, very difficult thing for somebody, especially if you're great at something. It's very difficult for a lot of people to give away praise and absorb the negatives. So how did you deal with that? How did you absorb that?
Yeah. So I think what you just said is a perspective that I used to have. Nothing, and so it's actually evolved since then. So I'll tell you how. So I think you're absolutely right on. In the beginning, you need to learn how to praise everyone and be responsible for what's not working. But the space I'm at now is I see that I create my reality no matter what. So when I look at it, it's like, hey, if my team is doing great, that's a reflection of me. And it may not be something I can even do, but it's a reflection of me. And if my team isn't doing great, guess what? It also is a reflection of me. So it's really clear, and I think when you think about it from the front lines of client relationships, of course, I'm the last stop, bottom line, right? But when I think about it from how do I work with my teams and what does this look like, coming from the perspective that it really is all my reality, I create my reality, this is all mine. Even when a team member doesn't work out, that's also like I can really own, yeah, it's not about, oh, I didn't give them enough of this or enough of that. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, that's a part of me. And so let me look at that. And that, I think that's a different space. And it has been an evolution. See, I mean, no doubt, I wouldn't tell you I'd be saying this 10 years ago. But today it's like, oh yeah. And so I can integrate what's great about my team that are skills I do not have. And I can integrate what's great, not so great, as also a reflection of what's here. So that's how I look at it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Jane, when was the moment you said, I want to go with law,
Yeah.
but I also want to do real estate? And then you said, okay, this is definitely the moment I want to do this. When that was that moment?
Okay, let me tell you, it's a little bit of a story. I'll just give it to you. It's fun color. So I went to law school to be an NFL agent. I have a master's in sports management. I played rugby. I played on the first pro football team. I mean, I was like, I'm going to be an NFL agent. Where else to go but Florida, And I got in and I had great mentors. So a gentleman named Greg Ward and Jay Kim were my legal mentors. And I worked for them as a law student. And in that experience, I was like, wait a second, they gave me a case that I got to really get into. And that's what created my first company, which was a property management company, because I realized, oh, that's it. Real estate. Like, I can do this. Let's do this. I can do this. This is the moment. And it actually happened my second year of law school. And that's when I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I didn't know I would move, all these things would progress, that I would have my own firm, that I would open a title company as well. But that was the moment where I really shifted from being, in the world of sports management to real estate. And I really had no clue before then. It was an opportunity that presented itself, and I went with my intuition.
Any regrets?
None at all. No regrets. And there's no regrets because I'm not saying it was a perfect road. I mean, I had ups and I had some really good downs. But it's exactly what I needed to experience to develop myself so I could then step into the next roles of leadership in the community, on boards, literally serving the community as an elected official. And then now, being a contributor to the community, to me, it's all totally perfect. And I know people say that, but I truly believe every experience that I had prepared me for today.
I have a question here from the audience. How do you know when to let go of control in your business, and how do you train others to lead like you?
How do you know when to let go? Well, part of that is looking first at what your highest and best is. What is the highest and best use? What am I really great at that I can do? And then being really clear that others will be very good at things that you don't do, right? I had at one point, I thought I did it all. Like I was like HR plus accounting, and then it's like, what am I doing? This is insane, right? My highest best use is being with people, supporting my teams. And I think that that's an evolution. It's actually not something I would say an MBA program or a book can give you. I think it is a personal journey with yourself. And how to be a leader like me. I mean, everyone's going to be a leader like themselves, first of all, right? We're all a unique facet of the collective consciousness, but everyone's going to lead in their own style. So what I would say is you want to, let's call it accelerate your leadership journey. Take on that everybody and everything in your space is you. And that is it's easy to say, and it's a radical idea. But you really take that on. There's no more blaming people. I used to be off with their head, like, I'm going to fire you. It's not working. I'm firing you. Now I'm like, hold on a second. Have I given proper training? Have I, and if it comes to that, it does not work. It's not a fit. It's not a fit, but taking yourself on, leading your own life is where you lead that from there, you can lead others. I mean, you got to put the gas mask, or they call it the face mask, or the air on before you can help anyone else.
So you said something there, and it kind of resonates because you're right. Everybody's going to lead their own way, and nobody leads without being led a little bit first.
Of course.
And I think it's like the more mentors you have, the more people you've worked for, you see different styles, you see what you like, what you don't like. Yeah. And I think with you've definitely taken an unbelievable approach between having your own firm, running for office, doing all the things you've done. Who are some of the biggest mentors or leaders that you've either worked with or for that created this version of you?
Yeah, no, that's great. It's a great question because I think there's a saying, right? To be a great leader, one must be a great follower. And that can really glitch people out because I don't want to be a follower. I want to call the shots. Well, you want to call the shots, but how do you know that you can get your team rallied around you? So I would say recently, a lot of people fall into this category, but I'm just going to two right off the top of the head. So I work with a woman named Susan James. She is a trainer for me, and I absolutely am unbelievably grateful to Susan and Rob James and for their work in the self-discovery work I do. I am an intern in that space, which a lot of people are like, Jane, you're an intern? I'm like, you bet I'm an intern because I know what I don't have mastered here. And so I look for those with mastery that are willing to provide value and contribute. So those are the first two. And then I would actually call out the former city manager, or not former, but for me, former city manager, current city manager of the city of Oakland Park, David A. Bear. So he, is a city manager, and in a city, generally you have a manager plus commission form of government. Sometimes the commission is the mayor is the CEO, but most of them are not like that. And it may seem odd, but he very much was a leader for me and someone for me to learn from, even coming in with a real estate, law background. There's what you don't know, and it's just being clear. I don't know what I don't know. And it didn't mean that we agreed on everything or that I was like, yes, let me do what you say. But I was very clear there was something to learn. And, he really did mentor me through my 4 years. It was fantastic. Yeah. So this is the most recent.
So what are some of the things that you took away that you implemented, and some things that you took away you're like, hell no, we are not doing that?
Yeah, well, I think when you say that, do you mean in the light of like the city commission, like what
The
that
way
looked
you
like?
lead. No, just the
Yeah,
way
lead.
you lead. Yeah.
Yeah.
When
So
did you stop going off with their heads?
yeah. Well, I learned off with their, stop doing off with their head because, who wants to work for somebody that every time you turn around, you're worried that, you're going to get fired, right? Right. That's no fun at all. But also, I can't be your best friend either. So I think David did a very good job of teaching me what it looked like to interact with a professional and build a professional relationship, truly a relationship versus a friendship. And to look at, how to run that line, because there's multiple commissioners you have to deal with. You cannot be friends with commissioners, but you can have a relationship with them that is symbiotic and works together and understands we're not going to always agree. And I really appreciated that on his behalf. He's, look, I know you may vote against this. I just need you to see all sides and perspectives. So I think that would be my answer to that one, the most useful.
That was probably the hardest thing. I got into leadership at 31. And at 31, I thought oh no, we have to be friends. They're not going to listen to somebody if they're not friends with you.
Right.
That was the toughest thing to overcome. And I can tell you almost everybody I work with now feels like we have a relationship, but I don't think anybody would say that we're best friends.
Sure.
And I think that's the difference now between where I am today and where I was maybe 5-10 years ago, was, like you said, creating that line where we can have a great relationship and not be best friends.
Absolutely.
And it's something I'd say anybody who's young in their career trying to figure that out, they're not your friends. They're almost like one of my old bosses used to say, you can't get mad at them because they're like your kids. They don't mean to disappoint you, but your kids will disappoint you. They're going to do things that get you angry, but there's nothing, it's not personal. Nothing they do is personal.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. When you're friends with somebody and they do something, you take it personally.
Sure.
It's different. And it took a long time to really kind of put that all together.
Well, I would, just to add to what you've said, I think, we're all humans were raised hopefully with families or people who were family members for us. And we learn from a very young age to get along is to be friends. So we're like, our workforce, and I'm going to say this, is indoctrinated with this idea, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it has to transform. At some point, it's not friendship anymore. And there's no university that says, you learn knowledge, but they don't teach you the skills of, hey, this is how an interpersonal relationship evolves, and at some point, not everyone will agree with this, but, my mother, I want to relate to my mother as a woman. Not just, I'm not little girl to mommy, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I see it as an evolution that I can support my mother in her 70s as a woman, and she can support me as a woman, So I think there's an evolution, and look, everyone's where they're at. There's no like, this is the answer, but it's part of the journey, and you learn, right? You learn.
I'm so happy you said that, because it is an evolution. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in stages. And I had that same relationship with my dad. And I remember the first time where things changed was at the gym. And I lifted more than he did. And he kind of like, what the hell was that? He goes, no, wait, something's wrong. Something's not right here. Right. And I kind of gave him a look. He gave me, and that was like step one. And then you start making money. And then you start evolving. You're like, wait a second, he doesn't need me anymore. That is, I feel like when the relationship goes from a need to mutual, like that's when it changes. And it's awesome that you said that with your mom, because I had that with my dad, where he's like, he doesn't need me anymore, but and it changed the relationship. Now he comes to me with questions and advice the same way I used to go to with him. And it's really, really cool. And I think you can have that same relationship with your subordinates, with your peers.
100%.
And it's amazing when that happens.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
I mean, that is the moment, that first question, like, when do you know when you can step out, is when your team doesn't need you anymore. And when they know that what the decision they make may not be the right decision, it might screw stuff up. We're just going to handle it because I need you to make the decisions. So Rob and Susan James, who I had mentioned earlier, one of the things Rob says often is, the purpose of life is individuation, sovereignty. Because any relationship, including my personal relationships with friends or my husband, if it's a need-based relationship, it doesn't feel very good. But to be a sovereign human being who chooses to have a relationship with somebody else who's also sovereign, I don't need anything from them. And we can still feel great. In fact, feel better, because I've had the other end. Who doesn't? You've got to in order to get here. So yeah, individuation, sovereignty. That is the key to the step out, though, on the first question.
I can guarantee you that's going to get cut up into a clip, individuation.
You better be. Jane, so, you were mentioning previously that you were running a firm and building Peyton Bowling and doing such a lot of things at the same time. So what was the moment, or your biggest, what was I thinking moment as a founder? And then how do you turn it around for you as a positive outcome?
A bad moment? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, what was I thinking? Like, oh my God, now I'm a founder, now I'm doing this, now I need to stop, what am I doing? So
Yes.
What was the moment that you said, there's so many, but okay, let's take this and let's turn it around. So when was that?
Let's go to the next. There's a lot of those situations, Maria. So I would say, and so let me share this with the audience. There isn't just one moment, right? Every day is the moment. We don't have to wait for a strategy summit once a year or every 6 months or a quarterly. We don't have to wait. Every day is the moment. And every day I'm looking at, am I fulfilling my purpose? Am I doing the highest and best? Am I satisfied? And where are the areas of my life that I'm not? And so I think this is interesting because especially coming from a business background, working with a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a formula. Everyone wants to use the formula. Nothing wrong with the formula. It works to the extent it works. But I would challenge everyone that every moment is that moment where you say to yourself, is this happening? I'm always looking at it. I'm a founder, yes, but I'm also looking at what's the next step and who are the new partners coming in and what's my next role? And it's always an evolution. This idea that change is the only thing you can count on. Well, how about change that you create, that you're not at the effect of? Not change because, something happened to me, but change because, I want this to shift for me.
It's like the old expression, don't tell me the news, make the news.
I like it. Yeah, that would be my answer. I know it's not exactly what you wanted, but I gave you my feels on that,
Okay, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, what's the worst business advice you have ever received but thankfully ignored?
Oh, that's a good one. The worst business advice I've ever received. The worst. I would say to you, the worst advice is that I have to grow because growing is the only way to be successful. So there is this underlying movement, and there's nothing wrong with scaling, okay? But I can see it as an agreement that the only way to be successful is to continue to grow. And so what's your next business, and what's your next thing, and what's your next thing? And it's this constant evolution in some ways. But I would say I'm glad I've ignored that because my company, the law firm, expanded. And in 2013, we did the Inc. 5000 thing, fastest growing. And then I was like, wait a second, that's not actually what we want, and that's actually not the ideal for us. And so I have deliberately ignored that kind of advice. And so when I've had business coaches in the past in my firm, again, if you want to grow, no problem, please do it. I think it's great. But I don't think your measure of success is that you've grown. I think it's especially in the EO world, how much profit are you actually making versus the gross revenue, right? Really, what's really happening? So that's the best thing I've ignored, and I've probably pissed off a lot of scaling coaches out there. But that's my feel. It's like you don't have to do it because they tell you that's the measure of your success.
Why do you think that is such a common thing where they say in order to be successful, you have to be growing, 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 where maybe you have 3 million in revenue, but you have 1.5 million in EBITDA and you're just, having the time of your life doing whatever the hell you want. I mean, I know everybody's different and success is different to everybody, but why do you think like that? And you're not the only everybody's been told that you have to grow, 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 grow.
Of course.
But I feel like there's so many mistakes that are made when you do that too quickly. So why do you think that's such a common denominator?
I think we're human beings. We want to evolve. We grow from a child, right? Like we grow. Growth is inevitable. And there is that saying, if you're not growing, you're dying, which I would agree. And I'm always looking to create more achievement and success in my life. But business is one domain of success.
Yeah.
And how successful your business is not just the numbers. I mean, are your people happy? Because by the way, you are the ripple effect. Everyone that you employ, they have a family that you're impacting, whether you know it or not. And so I think there's a lot to be said for balance and to look at it all. But I think the reason we have that is because as a society, we think money equals value. We think if you've got money, somehow you've got something figured out. Yet the most successful people who have lots of money are perhaps the most miserable in many ways, right? Because it's only one part. You got to look at the whole thing. You can't look at just this one thing. You got a lot of cash, but you're miserable and nobody wants to hang out with you and you don't want to contribute to society and you feel, you're still playing out games from your childhood. Ugh, yuck.
What did you have to do to get that money? And you got to think about what did you have to do to get that money? Is that making you happy? Can you sleep at night? Sure. It's a tough one. So it's good that you brought that up, and I'm happy that you said, we didn't want to scale anymore. We're happy where we are. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it.
You seem like one of the happiest people we've had on this podcast. So it's like clearly you're doing something right. Maybe you should be a coach. Stop telling me and tell people you don't have to scale so much. Just be happy with life.
Right. Listen, I feel good. I really do. And
it feels like you've hit a point in your life, and I feel like I've gotten pretty close to hitting that, where it's like a mental maturity to where you're able to enjoy the moment, instead of always chasing the next moment.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that there's a lot of mental relief that comes with it, a lot of happiness that comes with being able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, instead of worrying about laying the seed for the next crop. It's just, maybe I'll enjoy this apple today. Maybe I'll enjoy the steak today. And then, so it's cool that you've hit that, because a lot of people they'll never get that.
They really can, but it's like the image of pushing a rock up a hill. Mm-hmm. We think we know how to get there, but like, oh my gosh, and now I've got a family and a thing and but it's all possible for everybody. And it is, what you said is right on the moment. It's learning to direct your attention and to be here now. It doesn't mean there isn't planning to be done. Sure. Okay. Planning. But if you're planning because you're resisting feeling right now, either your failure or your success, you're just on this little hamster wheel and you're rocking it out. And welcome. You're right. Most people are on the hamster wheel. I definitely have made it my life's work to jump off that thing. And, there's days where, Zia, I'm like, oh, I'm on the hamster wheel. I'm in my doer mode. We're doing stuff. And then I'm like, oh, but I can catch myself faster and faster.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wonderful, Jane. Yeah. I hope to have all the clips you saying everything. Jane, so now let's move a little bit to the real estate part. So sure. You've seen everything in the real estate law. So what's one deal, dispute, or situation that totally surprised you and taught you something valuable?
Yeah, so we deal with a much more human component of real estate, because I deal with condo boards and HOA boards. And I joke that it was the best training I ever had to be in office, by the way, because it is, it's a community. And what I've seen is where, if you purchase in an association and common interest communities, working with other people, having them run the business of your association is not for you, you should just leave. You should sell your home or sell your condo and move out, because what's the point of hiring more attorneys to sue the association when you're suing yourself? I think it's something people don't talk about. And I know this also from the real estate side. And look, agents and brokers, realtor professionals can't be your therapist, but there is a question like, is this it's not just, do you like the amenities, but you realize you share a common wall. It might be loud. Are you going to file a complaint every time that happens? Or you don't like that they painted it or how it's being managed. I mean, not to say that there aren't things that have to be done properly, but I think that's the key. And I am not giving you a specific scenario because I don't want to disclose, anyone's business, but I think that's what I would say in real estate. And it's something nobody talks about. Nobody talks about it at all. They just say, oh, the condo is great. The HOA is great. You've got this thing. Are you somebody who wants to do that? Are you somebody who wants to live? And if you don't want to be told what to do and you don't want to play the game with them, don't do it. That's what I would say.
So I don't know how much time we have, but I do want to dip into a little bit of real estate with you, if that's okay.
Sure.
So ever since Surfside, we've seen a massive, massive change in the condo market.
Absolutely.
And it definitely happening in Florida. It's probably going to happen all over the country, especially in older buildings. And we have a ton of those here down South Florida.
Sure.
Let me start with a super vague question. What do you see the apartment condo landscape look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think, so this is what I would say to you. There's been a misunderstanding by many that we've never had to require reserves. So post Surfside, we've had 3 years of legislation. Reserves were always required in condominiums, but we could waive them or partially waive them. And so I think there was a dream of coming to, retire in a condo on the beach and you've got your set income. I think what we're going to see is that it's no longer like that there has been so much that's been kicked down the road that there's going to be repairs required by law, that assessments are going to go up. And what used to be considered affordable housing, and I don't mean like in the term affordable housing for everyone, I mean like literally affordable housing for people, is no longer affordable. Right. And you have to be ready to have extra cash to deal with whatever comes up. And I think the market is just starting to get hit. And I think it's going to continue. It's not feeling good right now. Right. But there are going to be shining stars. You're going to see that there's going to be buildings that have their reserves and it looks good and, you can count on it. But I think this idea, again, nobody talked about, like, one, do you have the social skills to live in a condominium? But two, do you have the wherewithal to be able to deal with whatever comes up in terms of financing and cash? Yeah, I think it's not going to get better right now.
So everything we're seeing right now in the Florida real estate market, and Florida is one of the ones the whole United States is watching because everybody keeps moving, right? Is you're seeing a lot. They're saying, oh, we're getting back to the pre-COVID volumes. And as somebody who really enjoys real estate as well, yeah, but no. We're not seeing a lot of homes. We're seeing a ton of apartments, a ton of condos on the market.
Yeah.
At what point do you think we're going to see prices really come down? And then what I think might happen is if anybody knows anything about country clubs, there's an initiation fee into the country club.
Yeah.
That might be the new move where they say, hey, in order to move into this building, hey, the condo is going to cost you $250,000, but there's a $50,000 association fee up front.
Capital contribution is what we would call that. And they've been around for forever, capital contributions. I think also in our market, Zia, it is Florida as a whole, but South Florida is a little bit of a bubble. It has always been a bit of a bubble. And part of that is because we have Port Everglades. And so we are you think about that, like what has to happen in terms for us to have, goods provided to the whole state. I think you're always going to see our prices a little bit higher from that regard. And it's not just the Miami, glitz and glam all the way to West Palm, not forgetting Broward, but it's always been a little bit of a bubble here. And I think it's going to continue. And I don't know that prices are just going to drop. Right now, prices are actually dropping on condos because people are desperate to sell them.
Because they can't afford the HOAs.
They can't afford their association dues. That's correct. So prices are dropping, but they can't afford the dues and they know it. I mean, I had a call with some folks who literally like, we just want to give it back to the condo. I was like, please don't do that. Please don't just give your asset back to the condo, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. It's an asset, but I get it. It's also an asset that can get you in trouble if you don't have the wherewithal to pay the assessments. So yeah, I think what we need and what I think is going to happen, I had a call with some leaders in Broward County around workforce housing and the like, is I think you're going to see smaller units. I think you're going to see less amenities. I think, but there is a way to think outside of the box. And I started that conversation with them, like, you know, Habitat for Humanity has actually created condominiums instead of just single family homes. And I thought, wow, that's extraordinary. So to me, and this is getting a little technical, but you know, the declaration of condominium, how the condominium's actually created is what we need to look at. How did we have bylaws and covenants that allowed boards to volunteer boards to do what they've done? I think, you know, I think there's some space to look there, and I'm open to this very, you know, out of the box conversation and brainstorm, because I don't have the answer, but we can see the problem. And I think also the last thing on South Florida is a silver tsunami, right? So we've got a lot of people aging out. Really, you know, it's happening, and there's not a lot of support. I mean, the stories are pretty horrendous. So
We're about to get in trouble if we don't let the girls take over.
yes, please speak.
I feel it coming.
Okay, so what was your most expensive mistake, and will you make it again knowing what you know now?
My most expensive mistake. That's a good one. So, you know, for my world, I don't think it's ever really a mistake. I think it's probably just what I had to experience. But I think my most expensive mistake was not paying attention to my first company and not knowing, you know, not having my eyes on the cash and how things were being paid and what that looked like. I delegated that away. And there are some certain things as an owner you should keep your eye on. I learned that lesson. And if I hadn't gone through that, it was a mistake. That cost me a whole lot of money, like lots of money. I mean, really, the sale of that business was a fire sale instead of a multiplied, you know, with an X factor. So yeah, I can't even quantify how much it was. I just gonna say it's a whole lot. But that was a mistake. But because I learned that lesson, you know, it doesn't mean I'm in the accounting of my companies, but I'm also responsible for it. And I look at the numbers and I'm very clear. I'm aware. I have enough information that I'm not going to be surprised by anything anymore when it comes to that, right? So that's what I would tell you.
I have one that is very similar. That is,
Sure.
if we gave you a do-over button, one business move, one hire, or one yes you wouldn't do, what would it be?
If I had a do-over button, what would I do again? Okay. That's a great question. I'm just contemplating it. I feel like
Buy Bitcoin.
what I would do in the future is I would spend more time on the actual sort of web interface with clients than I did. I really, for me, that was we're lawyers, we'll give you the advice, this is what it looks like. And we've always been, you know, sort of like a green company. Everything's been online, but this, how do you interact? And so being on top with the clients, how do they want to interact with us? Are we doing it the way they want it? And this is right in line with this AI conversation too, right? Like how technology is moving so quickly. So I would spend more time there than I did in the past. And right now, that's actually the conversation with my partners is, you know, to be even more, it's like, I think I thought we were like, we're tech savvy, but I forgot that tech is ever evolving. And so I think that's what I would say. Like, let's do that over, and have more emphasis and attention on that technology infrastructure, even though we were a law firm. All right.
Wonderful. Jane, we have one question and then we usually do like a little fun game at the end. So you
Okay.
have, Gabby's going to give you different options and you just have to pick one option from those questions. But before that, I'm going to go with my last question that is related to if someone is thinking about starting their own firm or legal venture, what is one thing you wish somebody has told you when you start?
Yeah. I would say, hmm, it takes me back to the beginning of this conversation. That there's nothing wrong with not knowing what you don't know and seeking mentorship and advice. There's nothing wrong with that. And being okay with that everybody is going to be, you know, I joke, everybody's making everything up all the time. Like we're just all making it up and some of us sound more confident than others. But that it's really okay to be like, yeah, I don't know. Let me go get a mentor. I don't know. I don't know how to handle this. Let me go get some support. I think there's, especially when you start your own business, you're high flying. You've told everybody you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're out there and you're like, and so you create a facade, like you have it all together. And I think that's it. Like, let go of the facade, be real, deal with what's actually happening and be real with other people. It's not it's not a cakewalk. You don't just go upwards. There's always the up and down. And, part of being an EO member was surrounding myself with people that understood that, but also being real with everybody in your life about it. Just drop the facade. No, I can't afford that. Yes, I can afford that. No, that doesn't feel good. I'm having a tough day. Whatever it is, pretending you have it all together all the time. What a painful existence.
Awesome. So,
you like that answer?
Yes, let's go with the questions and see. Of course, as
Okay.
usual, you can participate if you feel like it.
Sure.
So, Gabby, what are the crazy questions?
Crazy
I'm
questions.
crazy. Let's see. What do you prefer, drafting a contract or closing a deal?
Closing a deal.
I'm in sales. Of course, it's closing.
100%.
I hate the
I'm in
contract.
sales. Let's close the deal.
One perfect client forever or 50 clients who pay on time?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, my perfect client forever
Pays on time.
pays on time and they pay me a lot. So I'm going to stick with that. I'll take 1 over 50 all day. Okay, let's do it.
Emails at 6 a.m. or Zooms at 9 p.m.?
Wow, those are both my witching hours. Like I protect my morning and I protect my evening. So I just feel like neither. I would take the 6 a.m. email if I had to give you an answer.
Yeah, because being on a Zoom after happy hour is not a good thing for me.
It's not a good idea.
This one is not for Sia, but working in yoga pants or power suit and heels?
Yoga pants.
Yoga pants.
More comfortable.
I like the compression.
I thought you liked the heels. Yeah, what do you mean? I thought you wanted to.
235 pounds is not supported.
At some point, I think everyone figures out heels are like, you don't have to do that anymore. Really don't have to do that anymore. Anyhow, all good.
Hey, unlimited coffee or unlimited legal assistance?
Coffee.
Legal.
I love coffee.
I'm always in trouble. I'll take the legal assistance.
We'll get your prepaid legal plan then. How about that?
And the last one, sadly, real estate boom or real estate chaos?
Boom. I know a lot of people make money off chaos in a down market, but in my world, it's got, I want everyone to win. Like, I don't want to be, it's how much fun is it to have everything you want and have no one else to share it with because they're not where you are. Like, so I want a win-win.
I'm on board with that.
Awesome. Jane, this was very, very exciting, and sadly, we just finished, our live. But thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all your insightful words and your journey. You share everything. Zia, as usual, thank you so much for backing up and also share your experiences. Gavi for taking care of the questions. And if you guys have questions for Jane, please follow her on LinkedIn and follow her page. It's Peyton Bolin, so just go ahead and look for it. And you can go also on our social media and check the entire live stream as well.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining, guys. More live stream coming soon. So join us. And thanks again, Jane. Talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.